topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in once again today. I am Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business TV and Radio on W4CY.com. We're streaming live on Talk4TV.com, in addition to Facebook, and that's at Winning Business Radio. And of course, we're available in podcast after the live show, wherever you listen and watch podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, again, wherever that is, we're there. The mission of Winning Business Radio and TV, as regular viewers and listeners know, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? To learn best practices. Those are the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, to be challenged and hopefully to be inspired by the successes of others. Those are consultants, coaches, advisors, authors, founders and owners, entrepreneurs, people with expertise. But, you know, virtually every successful person I've ever had a chance to talk to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. So as I say every week, while we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. I've spent the better part of my career equipping businesses to grow, from solopreneurs to small to medium-sized companies, all the way up to the Fortune 50. And I've seen some of those companies win, and to varying degrees, I've seen some fail. I've had the opportunity to rub elbows with some of the highest performing people around, and frankly, with some who probably should have found other professions. In my own businesses, I've had lots of success, but some failures too. I like to think I've learned a lot from those experiences. So yeah, you're going to hear from me, my opinions and insights, because everybody who knows me will tell you that sometimes I have a hard time being quiet. Sorry. But more importantly, together, we're going to hear from experts, those consultants, coaches, advisors, authors, founders and owners, entrepreneurs. And today, my guest is Nancy Muckle. She's CEO of Muckle and Associates and founder and CEO of Problems Solved. Here's her bio. Nancy Muckle, consummate rainmaker and problem solver, is a senior sales and marketing executive with over 40 years of national and international experience working with Fortune 500 companies, AI-based healthcare wellness companies, and biotech organizations. From technology and analytics to financial services, internet security, and healthcare solutions that address digital healthcare, musculoskeletal solutions, biotech, and behavioral health, Nancy and her firm have sold over $1 billion of solutions directly to self-insured employers, healthcare organizations, including hospitals and physicians groups, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, wellness benefit organizations, Fortune companies, and through channel partners, including the Big Five consulting firms. Muckle and Associates has helped establish global companies to enter and build market share and revenue in the U.S. market. Nancy's been CEO of Muckle and Associates for over 25 years. She's raised $90 million on Wall Street with a client CEO, in addition to ringing the bell. I want to hear about that story with a client at NASDAQ. She helps clients and early stage companies raise Series A and B rounds and generate revenue. She also serves as a mentor for Mass Bio. Problem Solved is Nancy's second company, started in 2020 during the pandemic in New England, and is now a national company focused on cybersecurity, healthcare, insurance, financial issues, hospitality, and vendors and contractors problems. Her clients are business owners and individuals, many problems involving money ranging from $5,000 to $1 million. Referrals come from lawyers, CPAs, wealth advisors, realtors, and her global network. Nancy's been a featured speaker at the MIT Enterprise Forum for CEOs, AIIM, which is the Association for Imaging and Information Management Imaging Expo, WPI 2 Venture Forum, Business Technology Association, Western Business Systems Association, and the New England Financial Forum. She was presented with the Company of Fellows Award at the AIIM National Conference, the highest worldwide industry award based on subject matter expertise in information management and e-business. In the last 35 years, only 263 individuals have become fellows worldwide. She has served on the Town of Plymouth, Mass. Affordable Housing Committee. She's led the Plymouth Habitat for Humanity fundraising committee and activities as VP and served on the executive board of directors. She served as the chairman of the Business and Technology Advisory Board for the Horace Mann School for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. That's the oldest school for the deaf in the United States and part of Boston Public Schools for 18 years. The board serves to advise the faculty on business and technology issues as related to physically challenged students, providing a link between the business and educational community. She also contributes to MassBio, as you heard, as part of a team of VCs, scientists, business executives to work with early stage biotech companies. She's a member of Provisors, the Plymouth and Cape Cod groups. She does pro bono consulting at the Center for Active Living in Plymouth. She holds a BS degree in Miami University, the one in Ohio, and has served as vice president of the Miami Alumni Executive Council, an elected position by the entire alumni body. She resides in Plymouth, Mass. With her husband, Bo, their parents to Brett, and grandparents to Emily and Zachary. Nance, welcome to Winning Business Radio.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate that intro, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Of course, I'm happy to have you. So again, thanks for taking the time. Tell us about Bo and Brett.
Love to tell you. I met Bo at Miami University, Oxford, Ohio. A lot of people confuse it with the one in Florida.
No.
And we started dating. He was a year younger than me in college, but we started dating in college. So we were together during college. And then when we graduated, I went out to the West Coast for a short time. And then we got married and had our son, Brett. So we've been married a long time. But I think the thing that's kept us together is my husband has a phenomenal sense of humor. And every day, he makes me laugh. And, you know, if you can laugh every day, that's all you need in my book. So that was my love affair with Bo. And then we had our son, Brett, who's also a very successful executive and entrepreneur in Ohio, lives in the Cleveland area. So he's not far away. And he's also a Miami graduate. And then his son, our grandson, Zachary, is a third generation. So we've got quite a history there at
That's
Miami.
Awesome. And what do Emily and Zach do?
So Zachary is finishing up his junior year, and he just came back from Mexico. He and some fraternity brothers went to Cabo. So I'm anxious to hear about that. Little war stories there. We're supposed to connect the next couple of days. He's catching up. He's back in school. Emily finished 2 years of medical school, and she met her soulmate in school, and they're now living in Michigan and establishing themselves in their healthcare profession. So so I'm very proud of our grandchildren. And what's kind of cool is we have a very close family, and they're always calling us not only to say hi, but to kind of pick our brains. We're kind of their sounding board. We offer advice freely, but never tell them what to do. And they love to come back to our area, to New England, as often as they can. Emily, I talked to her last night. She's coming in May for a long weekend, 4 or 5 days. And Zach is an amazing golfer, as is my son.
Nice.
So
and you golf a lot.
I do. I love golfing. I live on a couple of golf courses, actually in Nicholas. And so they come up also frequently. They love to go to the Cape. They love Boston. They do everything. So so we're very fortunate. We have a lovely family.
That's nice. Really good to hear. Where did you grow up, Nancy?
I grew up in a little town called Ashtabula. It's an Indian name. Ashtabula is located between Erie, Pennsylvania, and Cleveland, Ohio. A small town, lovely town on the lake. At one point, a real amazing shipping area. My father started a company there in Ashtabula, and I was there through high school, and then went to college.
So what were you interested in early? Why did you choose Miami? What did you major in? What were your interests in, say, high
Yes.
school and early college?
Well, when I was in high school, I wrote a column. So I actually majored in English, journalism, and speech, and with a minor in education. And I did start out initially teaching, but I was very interested in education, and really my father, as I mentioned, started a company, and he was a self-made man. I sort of everything I am today, I relate so much to my dad, who's passed away, but he never had the fortune to go to college, and he started a company with $100.
Wow.
And he was of the time when your handshake was a contract. And was an amazing man, leader in so many different organizations, like you mentioned with me, just always giving back, always advocating for everybody, whether you were, didn't matter what your job was. You could be the fellow who's cleaning after work or the CEO. He really had a tremendous ability to connect to people. And like I said, he gave me so much, I guess, a foundation in how I live my life. And today, I'm very passionate about what I'm doing, because it's all about advocating for everybody, whether you're a business person or whatever. So back to Miami, I started out and I wrote this column when I was in high school, which led to, I never wrote a book like a lot of my friends have written books, but I was always involved in writing. I loved writing. And I also liked learning, and that was really what got me interested in teaching. So I wanted to get a background in that, so I got a dual major, and that started me on my way.
And why'd you choose Miami?
Well, Miami, Bo got there through a scholarship. He didn't have the money. He came from not a well-to-do family, and so he got a full ride scholarship, playing under a very famous coach, and that was Bo Schembechler. I don't know if you remember Bo,
Yep,
but
I do.
Quite a history. And people don't know that Miami is a cradle of coaches. So Woody Hayes was there, Ara Parsegian. So all these famous coaches started there. I went there because when I visited there, it was about 8,000 students. So it was perfect size. Today it's almost 20,000.
Yeah.
So it's grown a lot, but gorgeous. It's like a picture ideal of a college, all Georgian brick, beautiful, small town. It just had all those elements and a really amazing reputation. I remember the chairman of the board of Procter & Gamble went to Miami, a lot of astronauts. It had just for a small, wonderful school. And it was about an hour from Cincinnati. Most people have never heard of Oxford, Ohio, but that's the school I chose. And I loved the school. I worked, while I was in school, I was a waitress. I served at a lot of events that were held in our main hall. And it was just a labor of love. I was in a sorority while I was there. Of course, loved sports because of Bo, my husband. And we had a great group of friends who were athletes. And so it was just and that's why we have 3 generations there. It's just an amazing school.
All right. Last question before the break. How did you get into sales? Did you set out to get in sales, or did it happen through circumstance?
No, I really didn't set out to get into sales, but I always wanted to get into business. And that was at a time when it was difficult for women to get into business. And so I was out in California teaching, moved back to the East Coast, got married, had Brett, and then basically wanted to break through. So I went into retail initially, went to work for a company called The Limited.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy who interviewed me said, you're too conservative the way you dress, you're going to have a challenge here. And in 6 months, I was number 1 in 60 stores in sales.
Wow.
So selling is really just building a relationship and trust. That's what sales is. And I just fell into that. And then from there moved into technology and other areas.
Well, we're going to take our first break. We'll be back. Everybody, we'll be back in about 1 minute with Nancy Muckle.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have you ever dreamt of being on the radio? Well, now is your chance. Be a radio show guest on the #1 ranked internet radio station and promote you and your business for free. Yes, you heard it, free. Business advertising right here on W4CY.com. Call 561-506-4031 now to get booked on one of our shows. That's 561-506-4031. Get your free advertising now.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
Welcome back with Nancy Muckle. She is the CEO of Muckle and Associates and the founder and CEO of Problems Solved. We'll get to that in a little bit. Nancy, you've worked for some pretty serious companies. You've had a lot of experiences, but I'm particularly concerned or curious, not concerned, about DEC, Apple, Citrix, some of those big brands. What were some of the most important lessons that you learned during your time, particularly at those types of companies?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So I started to work at Digital Equipment. That was my first real computer job. I got involved in word processing, the days of word processing, where we moved into the electronic world and away from typewriters. And the gentleman who interviewed me, I interviewed with 4 companies when we moved to New England. The individual said, "You have exactly what we need. We have a lot of engineers here, a lot of very wonderful, smart people, but we need someone like you. We'll teach you the computer business." So I had 4 or 5 different offers from various companies, but I went to work for that company. And everything old is new again. So
right.
where I live today is a 3,000-acre phenomenal development in Plymouth called Pine Hills. Pine Hills was owned by Digital Equipment. Never knew that. Built a house here. It was amazing. And the gentleman that hired me, who wound up living in Florida, in PGA, if anybody knows where that is, in West Palm Beach, and he had a home on the ocean in Connecticut, passed away just 2 weeks ago.
Oh, sorry.
It was my first mentor. I had 3 major mentors, and they were all men, no women, unfortunately. But they really guided, provided input, gave me opportunities, gave me projects, and it's really how I evolved. And everything I am today, including my dad, which we talked about earlier, these 3 guys were my cheerleaders, they're my champions. And everybody needs that in life, and I just learned everything. 5 years I spent at the company of Digital, and I eventually rose pretty quickly into management, then into running a group business systems group. And what I liked about that company was they always gave me the kind of the new and non-traditional role. So they would start a project and they'd go, "Okay, your budget is $9 million. We're going to give you 10 people in your group. Go figure it out." And 9 million in 1 year became 20 million. And there you go. So everything they gave me was always they were very successful in the mini computer business. Put me into areas that that were innovative and sort of out of the box. And it was probably the best opportunity I ever had to really learn about everything. I learned about hiring, firing, labor law, you name it, and how to build an organization, and then how to make sure that everybody on the team was successful, because you're only as good as your team. And that's also kind of lasted throughout my career, that you always want to hire people that are better than you or have a lot of skills that you don't have. That's what builds success. And also, I think another thing that I learned was you ask people in the beginning, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? Help them put together a plan that you can measure them against, but that can help them grow quickly, hopefully, into those roles.
That's excellent. Let's see. Which of those companies, doesn't have to be those three I named, of any of the companies you particularly had leadership roles in,
Yes.
which one was your most rewarding experience and why?
Oh, that's a good question.
And you could say it was DEC too.
Yeah, I would definitely put DEC up there. Would also
Mm.
put Apple Computer up there
Mhm.
and Citrix. When I joined Citrix after they'd been in business a year, Ed Yakabuchi, who was the founder who had come from IBM and taken a group of developers,
Mhm.
was a very exciting company. They were building a platform. I had half the United States, and I had a peer who had the other half of the United States for sales. And used to come in, everybody, of course, was Florida, so everybody wore shorts to work, and you'd come in at midnight some nights or 11 o'clock. They'd be working around the clock, never stopping. And it was just an amazing environment because we had some really good investors to begin with, a really good management team. And so that was an important experience, I think, in my life.
Mm.
And the other one was Apple because it was a turnaround.
Mm. Oh, really?
Yeah,
At that time.
I'd been working with a few guys at another early stage company founded out of San Francisco. We took a business from 0 to 60 million in 2 years. We all thought we'd be lying on the beach, but the parent company, which was a 100-year-old company out of San Francisco, basically sold off our business, successful business, to a catalog company.
Hmm.
And there were four of us who said, that's not what we want to be doing. They all went to Apple. They called me up and they said, hey, wherever you want to go, we want you here at Apple. So I wound up going to Florida because my parents wintered in South Florida. They were avid golfers like me. I said,
Yeah.
how much better? And my husband, for the only time in his career, ever followed me somewhere. I always followed him. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that we did a turnaround. We were in last place. And the way we did the turnaround was kind of what I mentioned earlier, was I had a team of 7 people, 7 salespeople, and basically, and 2 customer service people. And I was trying to understand why they'd not been successful, what was happening. And so I sat down with each of them and got to know them and put together a plan for each of them. And we wound up, again, taking a business that was in last place to first place in the region in a year. And we went from, I'm trying to remember when I inherited it, the business was doing, I think, 10 million. I don't remember the exact number, but we more than tripled the business. So
Nice.
that was, again, learning about not just the aspects of running a company, but how do you get people motivated to take them from not a position of prominence, and what do you need to do? So that was another, I think, in my foundation of building my business career, it was another important company and an important piece. So you learn from each of these opportunities. And eventually, when I got back to New England, I said, hey, if ever there's a time to kind of pull the trigger, it's now to run my own company. And that's when I started Muckle and Associates.
So perfect segue. Tell us about the company. Tell us about Muckle and Associates.
Yeah, so Muckle and Associates was at the time kind of leading edge and unique. It was not just a consulting firm, of which I brought in 5 partners, very amazing individuals to help me with building the company. But we wound up becoming a global venture because a lot of early stage companies that had some funding, because we wanted to get paid, of course, in the beginning, wanted to either come to the United States from Europe, a lot of great companies. These were all software companies, not hardware companies. And also, there are a lot of companies coming out of MIT, Harvard, my backyard, same thing. And so the net of that opportunity was to build a business to not only advise and consult CEO and their teams, and I many times acted as a VP of sales, even though I had my own company. And it was really to go out and generate their initial business. So from clinical trials and healthcare to basically any kind of opportunities like that, we were there, and we were out there literally acting as part of the team and generating revenue. And that's what, companies want. So they had some early stage money, a couple million, but nothing like what they eventually needed. And of all those companies that we worked with, and we had some amazing companies, a lot in digital healthcare, internet security, financial arena, and all of those ventures, we were able to move the company into getting VC money, Series A, Series B, and eventually most of them wound up with, over $75 million of investment that they were able to capitalize on. So it was a great company, and I think the excitement was, and I always have had kind of an interest. I think a couple of things that are unique to me are, number one, to sit down with people, or even on the phone. You may have never met them, but you kind of can build some rapport, but you get a good sense of people. And I was a pretty good judge of people. So I think that was important in making sure we teamed with the right companies. We had a lot of offers, a lot of opportunities, but it was important to find the companies that we felt, there was a real opportunity to help them. And we did. So that company is still in existence. I think last Thursday I got a call from a friend of mine who we knew back in those days, early days, when artificial intelligence just came out. That was like in the 80s. Well, everything old is new again. Never really took off to what it is today. But this gentleman called me and he said, I've got a serial entrepreneur flying in from Silicon Valley. He'd love to meet you and talk to you and tell you a little bit about his company focused on artificial intelligence for the healthcare and for the aging population, boomers and over, which is an area I'm very interested in. So I met with him, and it was a fabulous meeting, and I'm going to meet his CEO shortly. And so even though I've kind of put that company on a back burner, there's always people that search you out and want to pick your brain, or maybe even ask you to help them with some potential hookups in terms of joining companies together or getting them money. So, and that company is on the lookout for a few $1 million more than they have today. So anyway, that was that company, and now we're with Problem Solved. So we
start there. We have a couple minutes before the next break.
Yeah.
So introduce Problem Solved.
Sure.
My question is, did this start as where'd the idea come from? When you and I talked originally, I was fascinated by the idea, and when I went to your website, I was pleasantly surprised at the scope of the company, at what you're capable of, and the team that you have. And so I'm wondering, where did this come from? Was this an idea? Did you think it was going to be just a side hustle? Did you know it was going to be a company? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So 13 years ago, when I used to travel 4 days a week on planes, trains, and automobiles for Muckle and Associates, I thought, look at all these fabulous and very successful people who are never in their back, never home, never around their family, never being involved as much as they should in their family. What if you could take all that talent, those skills, and put it together in something that could help people? And that was my idea. And when COVID came and everything started happening, I said, if there's ever a time to pull the trigger, it is now, because people aren't traveling; they're in their homes, And that was the foundation for Problem Solved. And basically, you needed a computer and a phone, and you were in business virtually, and c'est la vie. So that's how we launched the company. And initially, we were going to focus on 5 segments for problems: healthcare, elder care, any kind of travel. I put under the auspices of hospitality, planes, hotels, deposits that were made during COVID that were lost, airplanes that were giving vouchers instead of cash. And then we also did anything related to vendors, contractors. And then finally, I got into cybersecurity. We'll talk about that maybe after the break. But that was an area I never ever thought about. But now that's a very important area in the world today, and we're having quite an impact in that area. So that was the way it came about.
All right. Well, pause right there. We'll dig in right after this commercial. Everybody will be back in about 1 more minute with Nancy Muckle.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
The YP.com website is your local search engine. If you're looking for a good restaurant, it can help you find the right one nearby with ratings and reviews. Or if your car breaks down, you can use the YP app to find the closest repair shop. Or maybe you're just looking for something to do on a Friday night. Well, it has great local coupons for all sorts of things in your area. No matter what, when, or where, if you're looking for something, YP Local Search can help you find it. So go to yp.com or download the app to search local, find local, and save local.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We're back again with Nancy Muckle. She is CEO of Muckle & Associates and founder and CEO of Problems Solved. And the description that I saw was helping recover money from 500 to 300 grand and above in the areas of elder care, as you mentioned, those 5 areas, probably and more. And so you saw a need. Again, did you think it was going to be a moneymaker? Did you think it was just going to be something you do to help people? What was your vision at first?
Yeah, I never started out thinking about the money. I started out thinking about the opportunity, because if the opportunity is right, the money comes.
Yeah.
And the key was to build the right team, and also to have a team of experts. I don't claim to be an expert in everything, but I've always surrounded myself, like we talked about earlier in the discussion, with people that are really good in various areas and have.
And you have a dozen or so people on staff.
We have many more than that, but we have advisors. So let's say cybersecurity. I have 2 retired FBI agents, a police lieutenant who's 30 years retired. So those people don't interface with my clients. They interface with me. They support me. They help me. And then I have a team of people who actually do the problem solving. And the one thing that's been really critical, I think, to our success is it's all about, again, customer service today is lacking. I think a lot of people say that because they can't solve a lot of issues, especially if it's related to money. So the way that I approach this with Problem Solved is, if someone has a problem, whether it be insurance or healthcare or whatever, I go to the top of an organization. So I'll give you an example. So recently, the largest American, I never use names, confidentiality, for clients and or companies, but largest American car manufacturer, we all know who that is.
Okay.
So this gentleman came to me through referral from a law firm. We currently have referrals from about 100 plus law firms, CPAs, as you mentioned earlier, wealth advisors, realtors. But the bottom line is, the law firm called me and said, hey, this fellow's bought a car. It was actually a truck that was a lemon, and it wasn't addressed right in the beginning. Can you take it off our plate and help us? I said, absolutely. So I got to understand the issue. It was a lemon, and the bottom line is, it was a truck that cost $106,000. Good, very nice truck, right? So net, to make sure that we could solve any problem, is you have to get to the top of a company. So what I try to do is I reach out to the top 4 roles, usually the CEO, the COO, it could be a general counsel. In this case, that's what it was for this particular truck. And or, those are sort of the key areas. I connect, some know me, but very few don't, especially Fortune companies may not know me directly, may know of me. But anyway, you get to that person. They always call me back, always. And I try to present the problem that we're solving as an organization, to say, we'd like to work with somebody on the executive team who can make a financial decision. We'd like to come back and present all the facts to you, and you can say yes or no, to help your client, your customer, your patient, if it's healthcare, in all those different areas. Everybody says, of course. But it's more than just facts. It's really human interest, because
impact.
Yeah. Behind every individual who has a problem or company, whatever, there's a lot of human interest, and everybody wants to help people, even though you think they don't, they do. So when you throw in that piece, our success rate, which is now 99%, it
Yeah,
sounds
that's phenomenal. By the way.
made up, but it isn't.
Mhm.
Number one, when we get referrals from the folks I mentioned, whether it be lawyers or financial advisors or whatever, there's a relationship there already. So when they come to us, it's immediate business. It's ours to either say yes or no to. We always say yes, typically. And then it's getting to the right person in an organization. And with the companies and the executives that I've met and then been introduced to the person that was going to help us solve the problem, nobody's ever said no. They can say no, but they don't. Why would they? We want to make it a win-win where they keep their customer, client, patient, whatever, and it all ends up as a win-win. And I think with that approach, which is also unique, it's helped us to be as successful as we are for advocating for business owners or individuals, which is what we're about.
So in that example, there are lemon laws. Why didn't the lemon law in that case help that individual?
The timing had passed.
Okay.
So if they would have done it in the beginning correctly, never would have gotten to me, right? But things happen in life.
Yeah.
There's always stories behind everything, but that was the bottom line. So what we did is wound up going to the general counsel, was assigned a negotiator, worked with the negotiator because there was money owed. There were a lot of problems with the lemon car. When turned in, is going to have less than 5,000 miles, $106,000 car. And it took almost 9 months to resolve, 9 months to resolve. But in the end, we got it resolved so that the financial entity that gave the loan got paid off. The person who had the truck got taken care of because they had the truck break down, an new car engine had to be put in it. I mean, there are all kinds of issues.
Wow.
But in the end, it was a win-win. Everybody's happy. The client's happy, the law firm's happy, and the vendor is happy.
What's your model for compensation? Is it sometimes a percentage? Is it sometimes a flat fee? What does that just broadly look like?
It's evolved. It's evolved in the beginning when nobody knew problem solved.
Yeah.
We would get paid at the end, but we would do a legal agreement that says, this is what we get paid. There's no guarantees. We still use that same agreement. Nothing's changed. But the point is today, with our success and with our everything that's happened, we get paid up front. And we have a percentage that we discuss. And people have already written off this money. They've lost it. They've written it off.
Yeah.
They're happy to pay. It never becomes an issue. And if it's an issue where someone says, for whatever reason, can I pay it over a couple of months or, a couple installments? No problem. We're happy to do that. We also do pro bono consulting. We have a local in Plymouth Center.
I saw that. Yeah.
Which is an amazing organization. It's not just for seniors, but they have classes. They have amazing speakers. Politicians come in. Everybody comes in. It's a beautiful building. They have a cafeteria. The food is real inexpensive, but delicious. And I go there once a month. I'll be there Wednesday of this week. And I go in for 2 or 3 hours. They sign up people and I sit there and I give them advice. And in the end, they usually come to us to solve it because they'd rather we do it than they get involved themselves. So that's no charge consulting. And it's really important to do that and very rewarding from both sides.
What are some of the other categories of professionals you have that can advise?
So we have insurance. We just got money from the West Coast. There was a hurricane a couple years ago. It was Ian. It was in Southwest Florida. And several people referred to me that lost everything. The insurance company wanted to pay a minimal amount to these people. We wound up getting $200,000 versus $50,000.
Wow.
And so we have people that have insurance expertise, healthcare expertise, financial expertise. I just talked about criminal expertise. So those people, really also come from the mindset of we want to help people. We want to use our skills. And clearly they want to make some money. And so people who work on our team basically can get a fairly large percentage of each problem we solve. And they can do it on a part-time basis. Some people have a full-time job. They might do 1 or 2 problems a month, or some people are leaning towards retirement. They have more time. So everybody wins in it, and everybody feels really good about what we do. I mean, they're really helping people, and it's really, I'm passionate about it, as you can tell, and
for sure.
so is my team.
Tell us more about cyber.
So how I got into it was kind of interesting. A lawyer I didn't know called me one day, and he said, I've heard about you. I have a buddy, and he got scammed. And would you talk to him? And I said, well, it sounds criminal. Sounds criminal to me, but yeah, I'll talk to anybody. So I talked to this individual, and they had a company, and it was about a $30 million company in the state, family-owned business, and they got scammed one night at midnight. And these actors, bad actors, are getting so it's amazing what they do. They've gone in at midnight, not only taken the money, and that isn't where the business owner kept all their money. They had, of course, banking accounts and everything, but they kept a small amount of money in there, and they had their own website. Yep, they could use this website without naming names. It's it is the largest processing. It's not like a bank or financial institution, which is where most scams and hacks end up, but this was actually a payment processing, largest in the world. So anyway, long story. I said, well, I don't do criminal, but let me look into it. And so that's when I started looking into it and said, okay. And so in the end, we got back the gentleman, we got him back all his money. He'd written it off. We got it back. And I said, there's so much of this going on. This is another area we could really add value. And that's when we brought on some of these experts I just talked to you about. And now it's, as you know, you can be CEO of a Fortune company and get scammed or hacked. You can be, your next door neighbor on a credit card. And so that could be a business unto itself, but it is one of our segments we go after.
I mean, as cool as AI and as much as it's going to be capable of, even beyond what writing emails or articles or whatever, that makes it even easier. I've seen, situations where somebody gets a call, sounds exactly like their daughter or brother or whatever, and saying, I need money, and typically when that money goes, it's gone.
That's correct. And the other thing that's interesting, I told you I had this meeting the other day. There's this new thing called, if I can say it correctly, Agenics. So it's a way to do predictive artificial intelligence. And they're using that a lot in healthcare these days as an example. So you can actually predict when things are going to happen, especially as you get older and you might be living alone. Or even if you're in a community, you might be living in an apartment and you're living with your spouse, maybe taking care of a spouse or partner, or maybe you've lost your spouse or partner and now you're living alone. So the things that are happening today in technology are just revolutionary and making such a difference today and as it continues to grow. So to your point, it's just so much promise, so much promise. So many ways to help people. It's amazing.
You've done a lot of speaking. That was a fantastic honor of the Company of Fellows Award. So yes, congratulations on that. But you also do a lot of nonprofit. You mentor Mass Bio. Talk about your mentoring at Mass Bio.
Yeah, so I got involved in that through a scientist who I worked with for 3 years. We actually launched her company. She was part of a partnership, and she developed some very revolutionary kind of patented technology. And so basically, that's how I kind of got involved in that whole biotech world. And then what Mass Bio, which is a major organization here in New England, they try to help people either coming out of Harvard or Broad Institute or MIT or whatever. And they put together a team, and you can opt to be in or out. You can be very involved. I haven't been involved over the last 6 months, but I've done 3 or 4 of these where they have a team of scientists, VCs, business people like myself, and you're there as a group to offer advice, input, answer questions, help people get funding. It's an amazing organization. I've been very involved. And it's been very rewarding for me, and I think for the organizations and people we can help. But there's just so many hours in the day, so I haven't been doing it over the last 6 months just because of my commitment to problem solved.
So I asked this question of many guests, because a lot of the guests tend to do certain pro bono or certain charitable endeavors. Give a 5-second, 10 to 15-second pitch as to why others should be involved in nonprofits and not just charitable giving, right? But getting involved.
Well, I think you only go around once. And as I get older, and I'm aging like all of us, you always want, at least I always want to give back. That's the way I was raised by my parents. And I just think you get so much more out of the involvement and getting engaged and helping, regardless of what you're doing. You don't have to be the CEO or you don't have to be the head of it. But the point is, in life, people worry about money, and we all worry about it, and helping our families to get through college or med school or whatever. But the point is, it's to me, it's the most important thing you can do with your life, is to really give back, help, advocate. And once people do that, I think they get really involved and attached and continue to.
Agreed.
One organization or many, but they're doing themselves and whomever they're helping a great service.
Agreed. We're blessed to be blessed. Be a blessing, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So here's a question. I have two questions that remain. Who in the listening and viewing audiences should reach out to you, and why?
Well, as I mentioned, the different referral sources that have given me, and I really help take a lot off their plate, because most of these people are just so involved in their day-to-day business. They don't have time to go do this.
Right.
But we are open to chatting with like anybody. It could be, like I said, your next door neighbor. It could be somebody running a $5 million company, a $10 million company, a $100 million company. We all have problems every day. Not time to do it. Most people don't feel comfortable calling the executives I call at these almost every company, whether it's a vendor, whether it's an insurance company. I'm just very comfortable doing that. So we can assist so many different areas, so many different segments. And I've got some phenomenal team members who are just so skilled. They're not, recent graduates from college. They're people who've been in business or in their areas for 30 years, 40 years. And they're just a tremendous resource. So, so we're open to chatting with anybody. We will do pro bono, 20-minute consultation, no charge. We will also be very candid. We don't waste anybody's time, including our own, if we don't feel it's a fit or whatever. This doesn't happen that often, but we're not going to do something we don't think is viable. So,
Well, and the best way for people to get in touch is at the website, which is probspluralsolved.com. It's in the crawl. It's been across the crawl several times.
Yep.
And the two phone numbers, there they are right there, 781-258-9050 or 508-224-4464. And they can pick your brain and see if there's any opportunity there. Nancy, thank you so much. Time has flown. I really appreciate you being here.
Kevin, this has been my pleasure. Thank you. Fabulous questions, and what a nice conversation. And hopefully people who watch your show get a lot of really good, valuable information. And
well, that's why I had you on. I really felt they could benefit from your expertise, and I thought it'd be fun too. So thank you again.
Take good care.
You too. And thank you as well. And thank you everybody for watching and listening. This is a show about business challenges. If you've got concerns about the sales effectiveness of your company, whether your sales team is you or small or large, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn at Winning Business Radio, or drop me a note. One of my many email addresses I always say is kevin@winningbusinessradio.com. Our company is Winning Incorporated. We're part of Sandler Training, and we develop sales teams at the high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. Listen, we're not right for everybody, but maybe we should have a conversation. Thank you to our producer and engineer, Juan, for another job well done. Thank you, Juan. Be sure to join us next week. That's Monday, April 14th. My guest will be Frank Lobb, author of The Big Lie in My Healthcare Bill. Until then, this is Kevin Hallinan.
You've been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.